Good evening. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here. I didn't know at the time that it's because everybody else has gone to polishing the pulpit. And so you needed somebody to speak tonight, I think. I appreciate conversing with Brother Todd. I asked how come he didn't get to go, and he said he wasn't important enough. And I said, I think it's the other way around. He's the most important. They left him to shepherd the flock, and the other ones took off for a good time at polishing the pulpit. Go Teach the Word is the name of the mission work that I do. I go to Guyana, South America. And of course, the goal is to save lost souls. I travel in person as often as I can, but I also regularly ship materials. And the cheapest place that I found to do that is in Nashville. So I drive down and ship it. It goes on a slow boat, giant ship with containers on it, over to Georgetown, the capital, and then it's distributed throughout the interior, mostly the interior of Guyana. And so I'm always having to weigh things like, do they need to see me for a couple of weeks, or do they need me to purchase that much in Bible materials and ship them? And so it usually falls toward that rather than seeing me in person. Thank you all very much. I've already got almost the van load full, and I understand there's some more that you're going to give me. Thank you very much. Guyana speaks English. They were a former British colony, so they can definitely use all the things that you have. Brother Archie is really good about, when he speaks places, telling people that about Guyana and the fact that they speak English, and he's like me, I just don't like stuff gathering dust, you know, in a locker or a cabinet or a basement or something of a church building when it can be sent there and they don't have access to it, and they can very much use it and appreciate it. I go in person and assess the needs. I got back about 3 weeks ago from the latest trip, and of course you sow the seed, you teach, and you go back like the Apostle Paul and check up on them. Guyana is a beautiful place. It has a lot of rainforest. It has mountains and trees there in the distance, and then it has savanna grasslands as well, and you see the traditional type of huts there in the foreground. Guyana is always hot. You see me perspiring here right now, just loading a few things in the van. You ought to see me when I go down there. As soon as I land until I finally leave, I perspire the entire time. And it's near the equator, so the sun sets and sunset rises and sets at the same time every day. They don't have as good a health care, so the lifespan is a little less. I mentioned that it was a former British colony. The country of Guyana is actually 1 year younger than I am. The average family only makes, I need to update that, they make about $175 US per month for the entire family. Now that's in the interior. They just don't have jobs, and they mostly hunt, fish, farm, and barter and trade to get by. And that's why they so much love the materials. I see Brother Gaddis from the Elizabethtown Church of Christ. They also have given me materials in the past to take. Whenever the country, they were just fine on their own, and then some Europeans showed up about 400 years ago, the Dutch, and then the British took it over from the Dutch. Well, they have a lot of sugar and rice plantations, and the local people didn't want to work them, and so they unfortunately brought people from Africa over. And about 30% of the population of Guyana is of African heritage. Now, the British Empire outlawed slavery long before we did in the United States. And so after that, they brought over indentured servants. You hear about that in the Bible. You work for a long time in order to pay your way, pay your passage. A little bit better than slavery, but not a lot. And about 40% of the population is of Indian descent. Only about 9% are the original indigenous people. You think of what people look like in South America, that's the Amerindians, they are called. And then about 20% of the population is mixed. The good news for me is that it's a peaceful country. They don't have squabbles amongst the different religions and different ethnic groups. Everybody's darker than me, unless I stay down there 3 weeks and I get a really good tan. I'm as dark as some of the lighter-skinned people. But all the religious groups get along, and they share each other's holidays. When I go down, they'll say it's I don't even know the holidays, like Hindu, it's like Rama something. And I say, what's that? And they go, well, we don't really know, but we're out of school today, so we're okay with that. And so they don't fight like in other countries where the ethnic groups or the religious groups fight. So about 50% are Christian, quote unquote, about 35% are Hindu, and there's fewer Muslim. But instead of fighting, they get along, which is wonderful. Now, Guyana is considered culturally a Caribbean country, even though it is not an island in the Caribbean. But it is part of the British Empire, it was, and so its culture and food and so on, a lot of it is tied to the Caribbean. So it is considered a Caribbean country, even though it is on the mainland of South America. Amazon rainforest, huge. Guyana there at the top in the middle has the most pristine rainforest left. You see those red areas, that's where Brazil and other places have clear-cut a lot of the rainforest. I'll mention in a little bit about discovering oil off the coast of Guyana that's really going to transform the country. And they were interviewing the president, and they were saying, now that you have oil and you're going to be pumping it, you know, what are you going to do about carbon emissions? And he got mad at this British news guy and said, hey, 20% of the oxygen on Earth is made from the Amazon rainforest. You know, what are you going to give us for all these years of you putting carbon dioxide in the air? You know, now that we're finally going to maybe have some oil. So I thought that was really neat that he fought back against that. Most of the people live in that red circle up there along the coast, and about 90% of the population. The rest of the country is very sparsely populated, and it's hard to get to. Those colored areas are sort of the equivalent of our Native American reservations out west. They don't have reservations there, but there are 9 different tribes, and they kind of have their land area. I mentioned the oil. Guyana is in the 2 colors of teal there, and the oil is off the coast. So when you land in Georgetown in your my skin color, they say missionary or oil, because they pretty much know you're one or the other. And so a lot of people from the Gulf Coast of the United States go down there and work on the oil derricks and things. The 2/3, that left part of Guyana that's a darker teal, recently you may have heard in the news, Nicolas Maduro, who is the evil leader of Venezuela. It's a socialist country, but he acts like a communist dictator. He has claimed that part of Guyana for Venezuela. And they even unveiled a map that showed that as part of it. But right now, what they down there call the ABC countries, America, Britain, and Canada, but also China and Brazil and others, do not want that to happen. So I don't think they're ever going to invade. There's not even a road that connects the 2 countries. It's just rainforest. So there's not any easy way for them to get over there. That's the bad guy. He jails his opposition leaders. He kills folks. You think our inflation is bad? Theirs is 360%. And so people are fleeing Venezuela, about 20% of the population so far, and some are coming to Guyana. Guyana doesn't have the infrastructure to handle that. But we can always learn, like from the Old Testament and New Testament Bible characters. I'm praying that Guyana learns from the mistakes of Venezuela and all of the oil that they had. I'll skip that. Communication is very difficult. Someone will ask me a question like, did the things that we sent to such and such village get there? Well, I can't just call up somebody and ask. I can't just get on Facebook and ask them, hey, has this arrived yet? So if you have a phone, it'll only work in those red or gray areas. Most of the people down there can't afford a phone, and they can't afford the data plan if they do have a phone. And so we are very blessed here. If you're a Bible school teacher and you want some information, you just look it up on the internet. You have a printer at home. I'm sure you have a copier here. They don't have any of those resources. That is why I collect what I do and purchase and then ship down there, because they don't have those basics that we do. This is the group that I went with 3 weeks ago, mostly from the Spring Hill, Tennessee congregation. Half of the team went to Parika and Tucson, which is on the east side of the Essequibo River, which is a massive river like the Mississippi You see that blue dot? They were on that side, and we took a ferry. It's 20 miles across the delta there where it dumps into the ocean. Took a ferry around those islands to get to the other side. There's the ferry, and there's the two places we worked, which is Good Hope and Suppanom. On the lower left, you see the world's eighth longest floating bridge, that straight line there toward the bottom. We crossed that. Now, that's actually in the Demerara River, which is another large one, but it's nowhere near as big as the Essequibo. But with some of the oil money, they are doing some things with the infrastructure. So you see above the straight line, there's a sort of a curve, and that's a bridge that they're building to actually connect to the other side. When you're in Guyana, they don't have Dollar Generals every 5 miles, so you have to purchase things in other ways. A lot of times someone will have what they call a snackette, which is the little buildings there out front of their house, and they'll sell sweets or bread or whatever it is. And you can buy things from people selling it all different kinds of ways. On the lower left is a nice place where you can buy things like bottled water, which is important because I can't drink the local water, toilet paper, which is really nice, and then the basics like cooking oil and flour and toothpaste and things like that. The fellow on the left was selling these iguana, not for pets, but for food. And the guys on the right there, the one in the middle has a pole, and on the end is a lasso. And so they catch the iguana, and that's how they're making some money on the side, is selling iguana to people who want to have supper. I've had iguana in curry sauce. It's a little chewy, but it's all right. Here we are, of course, when you go on mission trips, you set up Bible studies and you have Bible studies. Unlike in the United States, when you go up to a door, you know somebody's inside. You can hear them or see them, and they still won't come to the door. Down there, you can go up to a total stranger. Obviously, I'm an outsider from somewhere else, and they'll give you the time. They'll have a Bible study. I think I've been turned down twice, maybe ever, for a Bible study in Guyana. So it's wonderful to meet those folks. VBS at Good Hope, it's a small village, but we had about 80 children there in attendance. And it's wonderful because they don't really get that as often as we do here. Suppanom Creek is where the other congregation is, and the only way to access it is through the creek. There is no road. The road, if you will, is the creek. And so they're at the boat dock. We get on a boat, and on the upper right, we're dropping off a little girl after Vacation Bible School. That's where she lives. The only way to get to it is by boat. On the lower right, that's the dock for the congregation at Suppanom. You can kind of see the building in the distance there. It doesn't have windows or doors. It has holes for them, but it doesn't have any glass or a door or anything like that. This is what you see when you travel from the village up the creek. Everybody has a little access of some sort to the water area, and most people have a canoe. Some have an outboard motor on it. A lot of them do not. Here, I noticed, I think you have 2 church vans that I saw. There, they have a church boat because that's how they pick up people for worship services. And one of those 2 boats there is that. This is inside the Suppanom building, and it's also Vacation Bible School there. Back at Good Hope, each evening we had, we call it a campaign down there. We'd call it a gospel meeting here, maybe a revival. And so the last night, it was so full that they had people outside listening through the windows and the doors. And there's me speaking, and you can tell I am not a polished speaker. Jeff Archie, who you all support, he is like the epitome of a polished speaker. I am not. My father, as was mentioned, is a preacher. My youngest son is a preacher, and I call myself a talker. I don't have the mannerisms of a preacher and so on. Then you see the local preacher there, Andrew Rampadarth. He's one of those really hard-working guys, and he mentors younger people. A good thing about going down is you get to meet new people or see old friends. A lot of places, The church building is the underside of a house that was on stilts, and they enclose it. So the house you see on the top, underneath it you see the church building on the bottom left. This fella, the preacher, happens to be named Muhammad Ali. And yes, he was a boxer. He's only about this tall, so he wasn't a heavyweight boxer, but he got out his gloves and was showing me his moves. And so he is at the Richmond congregation, and I had not been connected up with them yet. So I now will be sending them supplies. I've already shipped them last week, I guess it was. This is Herman Joseph. You can see he and I standing there. And that's his congregation called Sandpit. That's the outside of the building. And out back on the upper right, they built this structure for classes. They don't have air conditioning and things like that, so it just has to keep the rain and the sun off. It's not like here. You have a beautiful building here, by the way. He offered us at his home some mangoes, so we're picking mangoes out of the tree. You don't have a Lowe's or Home Depot handy, so you see that ladder on the lower left. They just build what they need and do that. Brother Herman never went to school. And I don't mean he never went to preaching school. He never went one day of any kind of school in his entire life. And he's a little older than me and one of the wisest people you'd ever meet. So don't let your so-called lack of education, well, I only went to high school. Well, you went 12 or 13 or 14 years longer than he did if you went to preschool and kindergarten. So don't let stuff like that hinder you. You can still do work for the Lord. Another preacher, upper left there, is Clinton Fredericks, and he was visiting his sister. And on the right is Shireen Brown, and her father is a preacher in another part of Guyana, but she had been in a bus accident. There they have mostly European buses, that don't have any engine in the front. She was sitting in the front, and of course they drive on the wrong side of the road, being a British colony, and the steering wheel's on the wrong side. But they had a head-on collision, and it broke her femur, your upper leg bone. And so she was recovering at her in-laws. And that's their pet bird. They're beautiful. And then they were cooking. They don't have, the gas stove or electric. I have no idea how they know what temperature it is or how long to cook something. But I really enjoy the food down there. The preacher at Suppenham is on the upper left with his family, Ryan Benjamin, and then two other preachers, Harry Prasad preaches at Tushin, and Derek Narayan preaches in another part of the country, but had come to help with the campaign. On the upper right is a brother that attends there who's blind. And in Guyana, soccer, they call it football, is popular, but also cricket, because it was a British sport. And so I asked the blind fella, I said, why don't you be a cricket umpire or a soccer referee? They can't see anyway, so you could do as good a job as them, and he thought that was funny. I also told him how handsome I was, so I lied right there in the church building. But this is two of the local preachers baptizing folks while we were there on the trip. On the lower right is the reason that you don't drink the local water, because it is a mess a lot of times. They don't have a sewer system like we do, and so things are put into these canals, and you have to go somewhere clean to do a baptism. And so in the upper right, we're getting fresh bottled water and putting it in our little bottles as we go out for the day. And I'm sweating right now. You ought to see me down there. So when you hunger and thirst, like you're working out in the field or you're mowing a yard and you thirst for water, we need to be that way about God's word. We need to be that way about coming to worship services, about participating in congregational activities. We need to hunger and thirst. It's not a chore. It's not a I have to. It should be a I want to. And the people down there will travel a long way to do things. The capital of Georgetown is kind of like here. I mean, it has roads and traffic lights and things like that. But I think I showed that picture earlier. In the interior, it does not look like Nashville or anything like that. I mentioned that the rivers can be roadways. That might be the only way to get food to market. And if you love fresh food, oh man, fresh fish, fresh chicken. I mean, it was just plucked and killed. Fresh, any sort of fruits and vegetables. It tastes amazing. Things that I don't like here, I will eat down there. I don't eat much vegetables, as you can tell by my size, but down there I will. I mentioned having to, these folks are going to school, these children, and each school has their own school colors, so everybody dresses the same. That's neat. One of the preacher's nephew and niece have to paddle a couple of hours to school. So any of you young people here that complain about, not being able to, use your device on the way to school or something, don't complain about that. What if you had to paddle all the way to school and then all the way home as well? Ladies, you complain when one of your stove burners goes out, but you got 3 or 4 other burners and a microwave. This is how they have to prepare the food. These are different types of ways of cooking, different ovens. It's really nice. If you need to wash your dishes or do your laundry, you have to carry it to a clean water supply because they don't have the running water and they don't have a washing machine. And so they take it down to the creek or the river. Now, they can buy detergent, so they do use detergent, but they don't have a machine, that agitates the clothes. And so you see that paddle in the upper right in the brush. They just whack the fire out of their clothes. I don't see how they keep them nice, but they take very, very good care of their clothes. You'll see a little girl at church, and she'll have on a white frilly dress, and she may be the 8th little girl that's been handed down to. It is spotless. There's no grass stains. It's not ripped or anything like that. They're really good about taking care of what they have. Now, they may only have 2 dresses, 2 nice ones. You wear one Sunday and then the other one the next Sunday. Or during a campaign, you'll see someone wear, alternate. That's all they have. This is a traditional, they call it a banab. It's like a gazebo. Some are small, like for a family. Some are larger, like a church may have one, a congregation. And then some are really big. One of them is as big as this auditorium, and it's about 80 feet tall. And it's a gathering place for the folks in the town, and if they have an election or something, they elect a two-shao, which is like a mayor-sheriff combination type thing, and so this is one of their gathering places. I really commend the U.S. workers that go down, because some of them are retired, but a lot of them are still working, and they take their vacation time to go down. And I am attached to different groups. They invite me along, and it may be a medical mission trip, it may be more youth-oriented, it may be your typical evangelism type trip, but I'll be going back in late October with Amerindian Missions on another trip, Lord willing. Guyana means the land of many waters. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of waterfalls because of the way the land is. The Guyana Shield is higher. As it goes closer to the ocean, it drops. Kaieteur Falls on the right is about 4 times higher than Niagara Falls, if you've ever been there. So it's a tremendous, powerful waterfalls. I think I mentioned there are 9 tribes in Guyana. People that are my age and up speak their native language first and English second. But my age and down, they know English just fine. And you don't have to have an interpreter or anything like that. It's an ancient culture. They still do things the old-fashioned way. They make their own bows and arrows and hunt and fish either with a pole but a lot of times it's with a net like that. On about 2 trips ago, we were staying in a kind of a lodge place, and the owner's nephew was in the river fishing with a net. And they have crocodile, well, they call them caiman, and they're like smaller crocodiles, 6 or 8 feet long. And they are bottom feeders. And so he didn't see one, and it was feeding on the bottom. Well, as he was walking along with the net, he accidentally kicked it. And it came up and was mad, and he was trying to fight it off, and it bit off his arm from there down, and he was right-handed. So there are some dangers there. There's piranha as well, but the piranha don't eat you like in the old Tarzan movies. It's not quite the same. They'll just get a little toe or a pinky finger or something like that. Mentioned it's an ancient culture. These petroglyphs and rock drawings are about 1,000 years before Christ. So they're very, very old. This is the traditional type houses in places like the Savannah where there's not large trees. And they make their own bricks, or they use concrete blocks if they can get them from somewhere else. Places that do have trees make their houses out of wood, and if need be, if it's near a water source that floods, they have a the only season they have is the rainy season. The temperature doesn't drop, but it rains a lot more in May and June, and it floods some of their crops. The good part is about their crops is it's always warm, and so things grow all year long. Here we plant in the spring and harvest in the fall. There things will grow 2 or 3 times a year. And other type plants and trees will produce continually. They'll have small fruit and medium-sized and then ripe fruit. And it's tremendous that you can get that much food down there. A lot of people have what they call a farm, but it's really just a big garden. But you may not have the space available next to your hut. You may have to go a mile. I've heard as much as 12 or 15 miles away to find land that isn't covered with trees, and the soil's good, and it's not sloped, and there's not too many rocks. And so they make this backpack called a Warashee. And that lady in the middle, that was in Paramakatoy, which is in a mountainous area, and she had to walk up and down several hills and mountains to get back to her place of living. And she was carrying her body weight in vegetables. I mean, you can tell that she was probably 70 years old and carrying that much. So again, don't complain when you go to Walmart and you get a cart that doesn't steer just right. Think about having to do this. When I started doing the work, it was with Amerindian Missions, and I still help with them. But Brother Jerry Davidson, who's now deceased, started about 30 congregations in the interior. And you see in the inset there with that arrow is Brother Wayne Pruitt. And he still goes. He's about 82 years old. He's a fireball. And he got other people to start going to the interior, which is hard to get to, and there's fewer people. So Brother Jerry established a lot of congregations, and he wanted a Lord's church in every village and a Bible in every hut. And I, in my small way, try to help continue with that by providing Bibles and things. The current director is Roger Comstock there at the bottom. These are the 86 congregations that I'm working with, and you can see the stars there that represent. It's more in the interior, and there's actually one in Brazil on the border and 2 in Suriname on the border, and the rest are all in Guyana. And there's also the Hope Children's Home, as well as 3 different Bible schools that I try to help with whatever needs that they have. Transportation is difficult. You have to take a bush plane a lot of times, a small, maybe 12 or 14-seater. And if you're claustrophobic like my dad, you probably wouldn't be able to do that. You have to maybe take an army truck, motorcycle. That's Elroy McGarrell driving me over to Brazil and back. To cross the river, if you're lucky, it's not the rainy season, you can just go through the river. Other times you need to take kind of a ferry, but it's just human powered. You get on there with your vehicle and then they just pull to the other side. There's nothing modern about it whatsoever. In the Old West, when they would pan for gold, well, they still do that in Guyana. Sometimes it's an individual doing it, or sometimes it's a big operation like this where that thing is dredging up the bottom of the river and then sifting it, and they find gold that way. About 15% of Guyana's economy comes from gold. But you know what's worth more than gold? God's Word. They don't have enough of it. They can't just go buy a Bible. They may not have the money. The local little shop may not even sell Bibles. They certainly don't sell the brotherhood materials that we're used to and that I'll see at Polish in the Pulpit. And so that's why I gather the things that you all give me and send down there, because they don't have anything, And they don't care if it says, December of 2011. The date doesn't matter. It's God's Word. And so that's why I collect brotherhood periodicals and tracts and just everything like the essential books. we probably all have in our home, and even a preacher down there doesn't have them. Well, of the ones that I know, they do now because I've supplied that, but imagine not having any of the resources. This is a picture of some of the things that I send. I buy used books whenever possible and get a lot of very discounted or free things as well. Go through different Brotherhood publishers, you'll recognize those names. And again, a lot of times they'll give me deep discounts, or if there's something on their shelves that's old that they're not going to sell anymore, they'll donate things like that. I've got, well, that's my old truck on the upper left there, but I'll pick up items from lots of different places, and then I go back and sort. I look through every single piece that I get to make sure that it's okay, because sometimes you'll get a book from a seasoned Christian, and it was written by a Presbyterian person, and 12 of the chapters is really good, but then when you get to maybe something on baptism or the Holy Spirit, they mess it up on that one. And for a seasoned Christian, that's fine, but you don't want to send that to Guyana and influence somebody the wrong way, so I have to go through every little bit of it. This is one of the rooms that I have at our church building. This is rotating stock of things that I send down. I have a little cubby hole for each congregation, so as I go through, I separate it. And that's why it's important to know their needs and know the preachers and so on, because it may be a young congregation, or maybe they have a lot of teens, or maybe they have active women's group, or maybe the preacher is a brand new preacher, or maybe he's an older preacher, and you can give him a commentary on Revelation, and you probably wouldn't, the new preacher. So I have to make decisions like that. One of the schools that trains preachers, and not just preachers, but it helps anybody with extra education, is the Georgetown School of Preaching and Biblical Studies. Now this is closer to the coast, so they do have electricity and actually have internet as well, but they didn't have a library. Constructing the church building is very important because the Catholics got there first, and then the Church of England, or Anglican Church, there's a lot of those. And so in a village, you may only have 2 or 3 congregations of some sort, and it's important that you're not some fly-by-night group. That has happened. People have come and gone, but it's important to build the building. Right now, I'm trying to help build 3 church buildings down there, and they may be out of wood or block or brick. New congregations are being established. This is at Long Creek and Mycone and Towsheta. The one on the lower right has outgrown this little lean-to structure that they're under, and this fall, hopefully, we will start building a building for them there. This is a new one at La Luni that's just being started on the left, and on the right happens to be some of the materials that I sent that they were distributing. It's a brand new congregation. This one is at Long Creek. The building is far along, but I'm trying to raise $1,500 to help finish that building. And sometimes you have to get materials from somewhere else, like the corrugated roofing, and float it up the river for like a day and a half in order to get the materials that you need. So transportation can be very difficult. And the church building is nothing fancy. They don't have a PA system like here or a bathroom. They'll have an outhouse, but they won't have a baptistry like you have. I assume it's probably behind me there. They don't have padded pews or electricity or air conditioning. And they need help with basic supplies like class curriculum. A preacher moved to a new village and he's needing a bicycle because where he's at, the folks are more spread out, and he would like to go visit them. Bibles, they don't even have access to that oftentimes. Here's something you don't think about. I mentioned Dollar General, they don't have one. So if you're in the interior, it's very tough to get supplies sent in there, and if nobody drinks grape juice, they don't have any available. And so what do? Well, I found a source that's 100% grape powder, because if you send a big old bottle of grape juice and they only have, 30 baptized believers and then a bunch of children, it takes a while to go through the Welch's. Well, in that heat, it'll ferment, and they don't want to do that. And so the grape powder is the option for that if it's an area that can't grow grapes or they don't have a source for it. It's much closer to the first century church than we are, how they live is. Glasses, you can send all the material in the world, but if they can't see it, it doesn't help. And so you can go buy them for $1.25 at Dollar Tree. It should be called $1.25 tree now instead of $1. And they have a socialist country. You can read an eye chart, go to a clinic. When I say clinic, that's just like a building that has some aspirin and Band-Aids. And they can tell you what prescription level you need, but they don't have any glasses available. I've kind of mentioned some of these things. It costs a lot to ship the boxes. Evangelism tools, people are always wanting those. Please give us the tracts and things, and we'll give those out. Class curriculum, church building. So everything from classes up to a church building. The class material, anything that you think of that you use here, they don't have any of that. They can't even buy a Bible coloring book in all of Guyana. I have never found one. Other ways to help, was able to purchase a motorcycle for a preacher who travels to 4 different congregations and teaches and preaches and mentors. And he would have to borrow a motorcycle every Sunday to go do that. And he was trying to save up money and was hundreds and hundreds of dollars short, so was able to provide that for him. These children are praying, except for that one little girl in the front row. She's distracted. Don't do that. Don't get distracted. Keep your eye on Jesus. And when you're praying, pray to the Father and don't get distracted. I don't know what they were praying for in this picture, but it's a place that was very thankful for the Bible materials. And so I'm imagining that they're praying for those things listed on the right there. I do send some clothes. They don't have a lot of clothes, but I don't want to get into that, the clothing business. But it is good to put in between the boxes and fill out the top of the box whenever I'm shipping the containers. If you have any old Brotherhood periodicals or anything like that, that's wonderful. They are so very appreciative of what they get. They just don't have a lot, and anytime they get a box or two, or a preacher sent me a message today, and he got word that he had 6 boxes from me. And when I say me, I am the conduit, I guess. I let people know the needs and let them know that they speak English and what they can use, and then I funnel it down there. God gets the glory, so I say I too much. I don't mean I, it's we. We are doing this for these folks. When I make a presentation, sometimes young people are affected more than anybody else. And the girl on the left gave me her art prize money that she won. And the girl in the middle gave me tip money for the people in Guyana where she works at a coffee shop. And the 2 girls on the right, this was back obviously during the winter, but they read the newsletter and were so moved that they saved up money from their collecting eggs from their chickens to give to the work in Guyana. I don't know what time it is, but I'm about ready to finish up. I don't know if I'm short or over, but I showed you a picture of the Demerara floating bridge earlier, and there's only one way. If you're in a vehicle, there's only one way to go from the east bank of Demerara to the west bank, and that's to cross this bridge. The middle section is a little bit higher, and small river traffic can go under it, but a couple of times a day they stop traffic, car traffic, and they open up the middle section so that large river traffic can go through. But there's only one way to get across. There's no other way unless you took an airplane or swam, but if you're in a vehicle, only one way. There's only one way to get to heaven. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So just like that bridge, there's only one way to get to heaven. And I mentioned earlier the different ethnic groups. So it's not the Hindu religion, it's not the Muslim religion, and it's not false doctrine taught by denominational groups, but whatever is said in the Bible. I am sure that the elders here and Brother Miller and Brother Archie, when he comes, they all have preached to you many times the plan of salvation. We have a young man at our congregation who's 18 that just started at Heritage Christian University. He's on fire for the Lord. And he'll have friends that will give him some literature, and he'll look at it, and he'll say, well, that's good, but you left some things out. You didn't mention baptism. You didn't mention living faithfully. Most of the time they're Calvinists and think you just call on Jesus' name, and he'd call him into your heart, and then you're once saved, always saved. And so he recognizes, as we all do, that that is not correct. And so we need to be baptized. We need to remain faithful. Baptism isn't the end. Baptism is actually the beginning. And is there a baptistry back here? Yes, there is. Okay. And there's no piranha in there? Or caiman, I'm sure. And it's probably heated as well. Okay. If you have not been baptized, I'm imagining probably most of you have. That's why you're here on a Sunday afternoon. But if you have not, do it tonight. Tonight's the best time that you possibly could. Don't wait on family to get here, and don't put off till next week and maybe have a car accident or something. Do it right now. If you have been baptized, and I won't even say if, I'm going to say I know that you've messed up since then, okay? We all do that. And so we need to look in the mirror. Look in that spiritual mirror. What do I need? Where do I lack? What do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see, oh, I'm nobody. I wasn't educated that much. Well, what about Brother Joseph that I mentioned? He didn't need an education, at least not a formal one. He studied on his own. Gideon didn't think that he was a good leader, or going to be. Moses didn't either. But they ended up being warriors for God. So when you look in the mirror, see God's warrior. Don't see yourself as limited. Don't limit God. And then also, I was talking about a mirror, we may be the only mirror of Christ that some people see. So you don't have to go to South America. You know, some people kind of think too highly of me because I go to some other country and, you know, maybe they don't like not having electricity or eating food that they don't know what it is. To me, it's an adventure. I love it. But if you don't want to go somewhere else, you know what? In your circle of influence, you've got people that you can influence, that you can affect. There's people that need to hear God's word, and you can show them God's word by the way you act. You know, sometimes you'll see an obituary in the newspaper, and it'll say they were a member of such and such congregation, and you're going, really? That person was terrible. They were a no-good lying bum and cursed and swore. I didn't know they went to church anywhere. Don't be like that. Don't be one of those folks. Let people know about your Christianity. And does it say in the Bible that only the paid preacher is to make disciples? Only the elders or the deacons or the Bible class teachers or even only men or of a certain age? It just says go and make disciples. And so we all have that command. You don't have to do it in South America, but thank you for the help that you give for the last 3 years from the elders and from those that have donated supplies. But it is a command to go make disciples. So do it where you live, where you work, with your friends, and I'm sure there's family members that you have too. So if Jesus came back right now, what is your spiritual condition? I can't see into your heart like Jesus or the apostles could. I don't have that measure of the Holy Spirit. Are you prepared right now? Take a look in that spiritual mirror and to look into your heart and see what needs to be done. And if you have any need, come forward as we stand and sing this invitation song.